I want to welcome to the show now Don McBride, www.ccawashington.org/King of the Reach, Tommy. Don McBride, the chapter president for Tricities. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking time this evening to join us. Can you hear us there, Jordan? Anyway.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Duane.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Hey, Don, so you guys are once again hosting the Hanford Reach. It's the 11th annual King of the Reach Salmon Derby. This derby is a little different than most in that you guys are live capture and live fish collection and turn them over to WDFW. So there's a whole lot of moving parts to this thing. Go ahead and explain to folks who aren't familiar with what exactly this Salmon Derby is all about.
Sure. This is a really unique derby. It's a collaboration between the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Grant County PUD and CCA Tricities. This all got started 12 years ago with a crazy idea by our local biologist, Paul Hofarth, asking if sport fishermen might be willing to help collect live broodstock for the Priest Rapids hatchery. And so he approached a couple of us at the CCA chapter, and we were all in.
Yeah.
So we a pilot program for the first year and then turned it into a derby to boost the participation for the last 11 years, counting this year. And it's been wildly successful. We've been able to provide wild broodstock to help their hatchery genetics meet their scientific review group guidelines. It's really important because if they weren't able to do that, they wouldn't be able to release the millions of smolt that they do that really drive a lot of the fisheries all the way down the Columbia, through the ocean, all the way up to Alaska.
Yeah.
Super important program.
Hey, Don, talk a little bit. How do the rules work? Do you guys cap the number of boats that do it? Is there a limited number of anglers per boat? How does that all work?
Yeah. So we have a limit of no more than 80 boats, and we do that just so that be sure that the fish handling will be done in a way that we won't have any mortality on the fish that are captured. There's no limit to how many people can be on a boat. But there's kind of a practical limit. You can run 2 rods apiece already, so there's not really an advantage to stacking a whole lot of people on your boat at the same time. But some of the local guides will actually take clients out, and they can take different clients out each of the 3 days if they would like to do that.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you just mentioned a 3-day tournament, and what's the end goal? Like how many Chinook, and are they exclusively wild Chinook that they're turning in? And how many of those do they need to collect to meet the goal for the Derby?
Yeah, so we have a goal of collecting about 500 or more wild adult, natural origin adult Chinook salmon. So anything other than an adult Chinook salmon that has an intact fin just goes back in the water. Again, our goal is to collect at least 500 of them. We'd love to get closer to 1,000. By doing that, what happens is the genetics of the fish that are raised in that hatchery are, we've averaged over 50% of all of the salmon released from that hatchery over the course of the last 11 years have had at least one parent. So if those fish then stray onto the spawning grounds when they return, they're not going to have an adverse impact on the natural origin fish that are already out there.
Sure,
and
makes sense.
And it's super important because there's no other way to separate those fish from the wild fish that are out there. There's no weir or other means of separating them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's great. Talk about the process a little bit. So you have all these boats competing out there. They catch this fish. They put it into a live box on their boat. Are they running in right away and transferring that fish, handing that fish off, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we provide aerator pumps to each of the boats if they don't already have a large enough live well, and then they bring their own large cooler and basically turn it into a big live well. We found that the fish survive in that really, really well. You don't want to keep them in there for an extended time. Usually, it's okay to fish for a few more minutes after you get one, but we really want them to get turned in as quickly as possible. We have 3 locations where we have hatchery trucks with aerators in them parked, both at Vernita Bridge, White Bluffs, and then halfway between at the Punch Bowl. But we also have a couple shuttle boats out on the water with aerated tanks, oxygenated tanks. And if you flag one of them down, you can drop off your fish without even having to go back to the launch. So it really depends on where you're fishing, throughout the reach. There are miles and miles of water you could be fishing. So if you're in a spot that's far away, you might have to run a few miles to get back to where you can drop off a fish.
Perfect. All right, we're coming up against a hard break here, Don. But before we go, give us the exact dates of the Derby. Do you have space available still for additional boat captains? And where do folks go to sign up?
Okay, so October 27th, 28th, 29th, we do have room for a few more boat captains. So go to the website you mentioned, www.ccawashington.org/King of the Reach.
Right.
And all the info are available right there, both for the boats and for individual anglers to jump on the boat. It's a spectacularly fun way to not only catch the fish, but also help the resources. It's the only thing I know where you can catch a fish and every one of the fish you catch produces more fish for the fishery for the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent point. So, well, hey, appreciate you taking time out this evening, get folks squared away on what this Derby's all about and how it contributes to the resource and the opportunity for folks to go fishing and then help the end result in producing more fish in the following year. So great work you guys are doing. Keep it up. And thanks again for joining us this evening.
All right. Thanks, Duane.
You bet.
Have a good one, Don.
Have a good night. Don McBride, and again, www.ccawashington.org/King of the Reach for all the information if you're interested in helping out catching broodstock Chinook up there on the Reach and participating in that Derby. It's a lot of fun, and it is not, contrary to popular belief on social media platforms, it is not detrimental to the fishery. It's actually contributing and doing a nice job. All right, going to jump out for a quick break. We come back.